So ever since I did my desk setup, and I've made a couple of gags about it since, if you're not already, come on, subscribe to the channel. Just like that person. Received a lot of questions as to what the social media counter is on top of my screen, and apparently these things aren't that widely known about, so I thought I would quickly make a video talking about exactly what this is. So technically it's just a Wi-Fi clock made by a company called LaMetric. Links to it will be in the description down below. Obviously the main selling point to this is to be more than just a clock, it's the apps which are connected to it, which LaMetric have their own kind of open API app store. Now what that means is LaMetric make the clock, but it's the smart boys and girls of the world that will make the clock what it is.
I am the smartest man alive!
So once it's set up, connected to your home Wi-Fi, and you've got the app installed on your phone, LaMetric give you a couple of apps to start off with. There's the local weather in your area, run through the temperature, the wind speed, the chance of precipitation, you know, the standard stuff that people get to their phone anyway. And then there's a couple of basic apps like a stopwatch or a timer, which you can either start from your phone, or the clock does have controls on the top of it, so you can cycle through and start and stop apps that way as well. Now one thing I know people are going to say is, but why are there scan lines and it's fuzzy? It doesn't look like that to me. That's just when you try to record it, it comes up badly on camera, okay? Subscriber. So you can tell from the sound that it just made that it does have speakers built in. So for that it does have a built-in radio, which is an internet radio, so you can choose from a couple of preset internet radio stations. You can search for new ones. And the sound is pretty much what you would expect from kind of a Bluetooth speaker about that size. It's not great. You wouldn't rock up to a party with this clock, but maybe if you're just in an office space working at your desk like this and you just want some background music, you could use this instead of your phone. But now for the bit you came for. If you are a social media influencer, you want to keep track of YouTube subscribers, Instagram followers, Twitter followers.
You're a basic bitch.
That's where there's a decent selection of apps in the LaMetric App Store. So start off with YouTube, obviously the most relevant for me. I've got 3 different YouTube apps which I can have displayed on here. Firstly, the one which is always in the back of the videos is just the subscriber count. And then that notification sound it plays every time I get a new subscriber is something which is completely customizable by the app. Coming. Oh, no, wouldn't recommend that one. So that's obviously like a great motivational piece. Every time you hear that sound go off, you know you got a new subscriber, a new follower, something like that. It does also track negatively if you want to follow that. Not quite as fun, but you can make sounds like this. So as well as the subscribers, if I want to link it to a particular video, maybe I've just put out a new one and I want to track how it's doing, you can link it to the amount of views on a video. Or a fairly new one, this is actually the analytics, the stuff that I would kind of go into the YouTube app to check every day anyway. And this will run through my monthly analytics of amount of watch time, amount of views, amount of subscribers, and give you like a nice little chart as to how that's trending. So obviously that covers off YouTube, which is the most relevant for me, but what other social medias can you connect? So there's Twitch, the amount of Twitch followers you've received. There's a Twitch live notification, so maybe you've got a favorite Twitch streamer and you want to know when they've gone live, this will pop up to show you. There's Instagram, the amount of Instagram followers, and you can also link that to the amount of likes and retweets on a tweet. And then some of them aren't unfortunately as user friendly. So there's the Instagram one here, which I just cannot get working. To get it to work in the LaMetric app, you actually need to go into Instagram's developer's website to register a key to connect to the LaMetric API, create a client ID, a client secret, and a valid redirection URI. These are just words that I've read, by the way. I tried to do it, I've followed the instructions, I just can't get it to connect. Which is obviously kind of one of the downsides to it as well. Where the App Store is open to third parties, they are made, you know, some of them just by regular people. They're not 100% tried and tested, so some of them do just come out like this. So other than the social media side, there's also news which you can cycle, although this is forever hard to read. It really doesn't look that bad in real life, but yeah, regardless, that scrolling text is always going to be difficult to read. I'm never going to understand the news that way. There's a number of unread emails, so that's connected to my Gmail account, for example. You can create your own custom messages, as well as be able to create your own little custom icons to go on there as well. And then, as I said, being kind of an open app store, people just make crap. So you've got the number of days till Christmas. That's scary. And
Why not Zoidberg?
So as you've just seen, while it is displaying one app, it will swap to the others if something changes. So we've got Why Not Zoidberg, and it came through to say we've got a new subscriber. But through the app, you also do have the option to select certain apps or have it scroll through on a schedule. So I don't know, maybe you stream on Mondays and you create YouTube content on Tuesday. So the Twitch stuff on Mondays would work best, whereas the subscriber count on a Tuesday would work. It's a very specific tool, but hey, it's there. And you can also just have them auto scrolling, and obviously you don't want all of the ones going through. So if you're just trying to keep count of your socials, you don't need to keep knowing the weather. So you can change it to only the apps you want to see. So while all of that sounds great, there are still a few issues with it. So let's get some of those out in the open. Let's start with the price. For something which is essentially a fancy clock, mine just sits on top of my screen here. It runs about £160 here in the UK, which does render it a very expensive novelty piece, or maybe just part of an extravagant setup. But if you're just looking for a fancy clock, you could probably go cheaper. However, that being said, the alternatives for an actual physical social media counter, there aren't that many out there. There's a company called Smurl. Their cheapest one is £269 and only shows Facebook and Instagram. Or the first one of these I ever saw was a company called Flapit, which do show up to 11 social medias. But the cheapest price for that is £514.80. So £160, maybe not so bad. As well as that, as I said, all of the apps are made by developers and third parties. So they're not perfect. Sometimes I walk in the morning and it's just defaulted to the time, or a completely random app that I haven't set it to, when usually I just opt for it to stay on that all of the time. And as I mentioned, some of the apps can be kind of difficult and more technical to set up, like the Instagram one. And although even in the 2 to 3 months that I've had it, the App Store has actually expanded a fair amount. Thank you. For example, the last email I got from LaMetric that said, hey, we now connect to those nanoleaf light display panels that people put up above their desks now. So every time that goes off, I could get a big parade of nanoleafs to go off in a big red color or something. You're also, as I said, limited to what those developers want to make. So a prime example, my other half does a lot of stuff on Etsy. There's no Etsy app. There's nothing that goes off every time she gets a new sale or a new favorite. So just a quick look at this clock for the people who kept asking what it was above my screen. If you're interested in purchasing one, as I said, link to it will be in the description down below. I'll also link to LaMetric's app page, so if you're going to buy it for a specific reason, you can see if that app exists before purchasing it. But if you enjoyed this video, you found it helpful, remember to drop a like. If you haven't already, remember to subscribe to the channel. And as always, I shall see you in the next one.